Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to show you two ways of how you can blend Scarlet Lake and white in acrylics. So I've got these colors from Camel and I've got these nice tubes that I'm going to be using directly on my acrylic sheet. So I'm just going to pin this sheet down first on my cutting board and then we'll start painting. You can also try this painting along with me right now because once I've pinned down my sheet, I'm going to switch my video back to the regular speed so you can paint along with me and figure out what speed you should also be in. So I've first taken a blob of Scarlet Lake and I'm going to take some little bit of white and I'm going to add that towards the bottom. So I'm going to be using a flat brush today because that's the best we can use for blending of acrylics. So just wet your brush, make sure there's no other color in it, but don't have a lot of water in it because then your acrylic pigment will start acting like watercolors and you don't want it to be like that. You want it to be nice opaque. So I'm taking the color, I'm just moving it left to right. You can see it is so smooth, it's almost like cream. So if it is too dry, then you can take a little bit of water in your brush, but just don't take too much of it. So I'm going to pick a little bit of white from the bottom, and at the area where the red is ending, I'm just adding a little bit of it, going left and right in the strokes, and you can see that it creates a very interesting and a very beautiful blend. So I'm washing now my brush completely because the first demo that I'm giving is where it goes from red to directly white. So in that case, make sure that your brush is completely clean and then just use it to blend the white down. Do not add any red to it and then come back to it later. At the bottom, like you can see, there's a small tiny blob of red that I ended up adding, so I can still salvage it, but make sure that you don't take your brush anywhere near the red when you're doing that. So now I've washed my brush. I'm just blending in the little bit of other areas where it looks like it's not blended very well. Since we added our paints directly from the tube, it is still pretty wet, so we can work with it. So while the first one is drying, I am going to just set up my table for the second blend. So now in the second blend that I'm going to show you, it is from Scarlet Lake to white again, but in this case it's not going to be pure white at the bottom like we did in the first one. I want to show what happens when it is like a tint, like you mix a Scarlet Lake and a white and then you get like a very beautiful tint in the middle. So what happens in that case? Your first step is going to be the same. You're adding a blob of scarlet on top and then you're going to add a blob of white at the bottom. So now my water doesn't have to be perfect because I don't want a pure white. If you want to be a pure white, your water better be a little better. So you're starting off again in the same style where I'm just taking my red, I'm blending it left to right. I don't start with the white. Normally I start with the more pigmented color first. So I'm taking a little bit of white, blending it with the red on the top. Again, the same swift motion that I'm going to go, and with the red in my brush I am going to go down in terms of my brush strokes, and you can see how the little bit of red which is in your brush will interact with your white and it'll create a nice beautiful tint. So if there's too much white, it's okay, wash it off, wash the color off your brush, dry it nicely, and because there's already a little bit of water and moisture on your sheet, you can just blend the remaining using just that. So this way you can create two different kind of blends and you can create very, very interesting paintings in this style. You'll not always have a similar surface to work with in terms of the area of paints that you have to apply. Some areas will be really small, some will be big, some will be circular. So you just have to change your brush strokes accordingly. So you can see how the same steps were followed from the top to bottom. It's just that one little change that you do in the first versus the second one. In the first one, you make sure that in the middle you wash your brush, and in the second one you don't really do that. Now for the first style, I showed you how to go from red to white. You could also go from white to red. That's another way of doing that. But I kind of like prefer from top to bottom because I don't want my hands to get a little dirty. But that's just like my personal preference. You can try out whichever style works for you and do that. I hope today's tutorial was useful for you to understand how to blend these colors in two different ways. And if you're new over here, do subscribe to my channel and I will see you soon for the next tutorial. Bye bye.